Welcome to Smolder, the Professionals Applied AI podcast. I'm your host, James Wagenheim. I've got a brand new show for you all about how AI is blazing through real people's work and lives, leaving a smoldering wake and making room for something completely new. It's a discussion about how everyday professionals make hay with it, or honestly, how it makes hay of them. Why AI? Discussing AI almost feels trite now, which should give us pause, because just a few years ago, it was a narrow, sort of boring tool for most people, and now it's ripping through society at a pace that breaks modern precedents for adoption and change. You can see the smoke rising everywhere, and understanding this shift is going to be crucial if we want to evolve at work and navigate daily life. No other technology we've built really raises questions this deep, really arguably rivaling and maybe even exceeding the nuclear age. This raises really deep, difficult questions like, what does intelligence mean and how do we recognize it? What would our livelihoods look like after we have near unlimited automation? Are we headed to some utopia, dystopia, or some weird blend of both? We're going to be touching all that, but I want to get the professionals' experience and opinions that are being impacted by this stuff every single day, and I'm going to bring those conversations to you. Today's guest is Jim Duffy, a friend of mine and a developer at Hubspot. He's one of the most enthusiastic professionals I've worked with. He cares about quality, he innovates constantly, thinks clearly and deliberately, and he's really fun to talk to. I'm excited to get his perspective and share the conversation that we're going to have with you all. Without further ado, let's get right into it with Jim Duffy.
Like GPT-3 or 3.5, I don't remember what the first one was. That, when it took over the world and I started to use it. Well, my mind wasn't so much like, it was more of just, damn, this is neat. And I think it's from the engineering perspective. I wouldn't have thought, maybe in my lifetime, something like that would have been built. I could have a conversation with and actually already find so much value in what it's giving me, as opposed to like Google searches and asking it, even simple questions and, being hands-free and like, what is this metric conversion or something like that.
Yeah, or even like, what is this random drug I got in Mexico actually do? Because I don't remember.
Yeah. And if it's right, then it's useful. If it's wrong, then it's like, oh my God, that was still really fun. Look at how interesting and look how wrong and how really stupidly wrong it can be sometimes. So I've just been like full throttle entertained since its inception.
That's awesome. I actually didn't think about the exercise of it being wrong being really super interesting, which it totally is. And then how wrong it is across all the evolution has been fascinating to watch too, like, or how right it is, so like I 100% agree with that assessment. But anyway, we're going to get more into the AI stuff in a second. I actually just wanted to talk a little bit about you. And so where did you grow up?
I grew up in Central Maine. And I had a pretty normal public school upbringing. Mom and dad lived in the same area. Brother, sister.
They live in the same house that you grew up in?
No, they live in the same area. So
okay.
Yeah. They both lived in Central Maine. And yeah, I guess it is kind of an odd thing thinking about that, because I was surrounded with such little technology.
Oh yeah.
But I was always really interested in it.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. So like, and you have a little girl and a beautiful wife. And I wanted to ask the question, what was sort of like your earliest experience thinking about technology?
It's a mix of video games and
mine was too.
Yeah, I remember. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was like Wolfenstein and Duke Nukem and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're a little ahead of me.
Older.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the word. So, yeah, I don't even know the game. Actually, I would be so interested. If this podcast had like 1 million listeners, I bet I could broadcast this request out and it would help me find out what this game was. It was like a rolling like conveyor belt of cans, and you had a revolver and you'd like shoot them off. So one of the most basic shooting games ever. And
If only we had a technology we could ask any questions.
I know. As I was saying that, I was like, this is the exact use, right? But it would actually be hard. I don't know like how much data is available from that time, because that was before like the gateway
Internet.
and the compact. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what I just told you is pretty much everything I know about it.
I bet you we could find this in about 30 seconds.
Throw on Max Opus.
Yeah, so you were a video game player. It sounds like
yeah.
you started out with pre-internet games.
And then in school there were like these, what they call them, like iMacs, the colored monitor with like the all-in-one and everything. And there was a software called Hyper Studio that you could make like little kind of like slideshow demo presentation things with. And so you could make them you'd have like a project that's like research a president. So you could put like a little couple slides together. And I just thought it was so neat.
Did you add like macros or something in there?
No, it was, but you would just hit start and like it could do little animations and things. I bet there's a video of this on YouTube, and just figuring out like what the buttons did. And it's actually I would say, I've never thought about it, a very early like version of programming, like almost like a visual programming kind of thing.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I remember my first encounter with programming was, just I had a really shitty computer, and the only thing it would do is run, DOS programs. And so I would create all these batch files, which are just these macros. So you could get it to do one thing after another and then jump around. But I think that's like, that's the visual version of that, that I was just, like you said, older.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. So, and then how did you find your way to becoming a developer?
I was always really interested. Okay, so yeah, growing up playing games in middle school and then high school, it was developed, like programming was always kind of adjacent to games, right? Like there would be like mods you could do, or if a game wasn't working, like or your computer wasn't working, you kind of have to dive into things a little bit, which is kind of as a
debugging,
tangent,
just
interesting
getting
that,
it to work.
Like, yes. Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know this, but I guess I'm hearing that this newer generation after millennials is not so tech savvy because they didn't have to
debug.
Yeah. Unlike, they get like, they start getting blue screens or their internet doesn't work.
You don't have to worry about compatibility. You're not like, what software do I have? Like, and then you don't find out until you've actually already installed it. And then
iPhones.
Yeah.
It all works.
It all works.
But
what audio driver do you have? Like no one gives a shit anymore.
Just going. You're like in middle school. You're telling your buddy you have to go on the device manager and like check your Ethernet port and all this stuff.
What was your high school game?
High school, some RuneScape, some World of Warcraft, Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat, lots of stuff. Many thousands of hours.
Yeah. Were you an Xbox person or a PlayStation?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Before I had a computer that could like play games. Yeah. I think maybe that was why RuneScape was like I favored for a while, because it's, probably the least demanding game possible. It's in a browser. But
I've never played RuneScape. What is it?
It's like a open world RPG thing. So you have a character, you walk around, you can you do some fishing and your fishing skill goes up. You cut some wood and your wood cutting skill goes up.
That sounds awesome. Is this still around?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's very
man, I want to play this.
It's very around.
I can only handle old games, like old, very like 8-bit sort of level games.
RuneScape is not far off from that, but I always kind of, because I knew that programming powered those games and I would kind of tinker with them a little bit, I always felt like I wanted to go in that direction. And I was sure that I would enjoy it. And I tried to do it on my own a few times, but I just couldn't get the motivation and discipline to really learn on my own. Because after like printing something, okay, setting up the environment to program is hard.
Yeah.
Like if you've never done that, it's like, and you know, it's easier now with ChatGPT, I would say.
Yeah.
But there were even YouTube tutorials back then, but sometimes you do it and it doesn't work. And then what?
Yeah.
And you have to figure it out. So you set it all up, you get it to print something, that's cool. And then you try to move on to a concept like for loops and starts to break your brain a little bit. And that's where I would usually teeter off. And then once I got to college and set that as my major and took a programming class, I was like, it was the right way to like keep me motivated and focused. And that was really cool. Yeah. Through college. Yeah.
So you have a computer science degree.
Yep.
Awesome. Where'd you go to school?
University of Southern Maine.
Oh yeah, USM. Oh, cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. And did you have a favorite professor or class?
Yeah, two different ones. Professor Booth seemed to always make the really complicated things simple and like really try to boil things down. He didn't teach my favorite class. My favorite class was a robotics class.
Oh man.
And it was where we would use Lego Mindstorms to like, you know, do like a sumo competition or a make your way to the other, like through the obstacle course robot or things like that. And that was so fun because it was the first time that programming came to life.
Yeah.
Because you would say, okay, if you see an object in front of you, like turn right or something for obstacle avoidance. But in real life, things aren't so black and white. Like there's like light reflection and shadows and like the sensors might be doing color instead of sonar or something. So you have to treat it in like a fuzzy way.
Yeah.
It's not just one path. It has to be like, okay, if you see something in front of you for like 10 clicks, then you can actually believe in your result and then you can turn that way.
Yeah.
And the grades were all based on like head to head. So if you did the worst of all the robots, you got the worst grade.
That's so cool.
So it was very competitive. And when it was competition day, man, it was just so fun.
Did you see the robotics games that just happened? Did you see any clips from that?
No, which ones?
Where they're like robots playing each other. And it's like one of my favorite things to watch them play soccer, and they just like run into each other and then they both fall down.
Oh my God, I need to see this. They're like humanoid robots on like a real soccer field.
Yeah, they do. You know, they've got everything like, you know, track and soccer and all that stuff. And I can't remember the name. I should look it up.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think in some ways I'm shocked at how slow progress has been on robotics. And in other ways, I'm amazed at where we are. It's sort of confusing. I mean, you see these Boston Dynamics robots jumping through courses and doing flips and you know, and then you see two robots trying to autonomously play soccer and they just can't even get around each other or kick a ball. It's like watching toddlers play soccer and they don't really quite understand the game, but kind of, 10 years from now, when they've grown up, they're going to be like really good soccer players. So it's like, it's sort of a strange experience, but anyway.
Well, I wonder if part of that is because they're taking robots that might not be like meant to play soccer. Because they're probably not like 10 years of research just for soccer. It's more for, maybe for something else. And then
they're
like, well, let's see how they do with soccer.
Yeah. It's a good question. But, and so, I mean, I love that sentiment that you're sort of able, and tell me if I'm wrong in this assessment, but basically the physicality of working with robotics sort of was really engaging when it came to understanding programming. And that was what was exciting about that class.
Yeah. The physicality, definitely. I think that was the first and last time probably I've seen my code be alive.
Oh, it's sad. It's so sad. That's really cool. And so you graduated college, and then what? You went straight to work for IDEX, or
I
oh yeah, I
went
did. That's where we
to,
worked together.
I had interned at Tyler Technologies,
Oh yeah,
and um, then I got a full time job at IBM, worked there for 4 years, moved back to Maine, 2 years at IDEX, and then I've been at HubSpot for just about 5 years.
and at HubSpot, you for a little while did a stint as a manager, and
Yeah,
then
as a
software
tech
developer,
as a
tech lead.
tech lead, which is they consider they broadcast that as like 50% manager, 50% developer. So it's a player coach role, and the tech lead role at HubSpot doesn't do like the more serious manager stuff like hiring and
Yeah,
firing and money.
yeah.
But you are doing you are like most of the performance evaluation, and you're like boots on the ground for the higher up managers about like who's on your team and how they're doing.
Um, I've always found when they say 50-50 on managing versus development, that is just absolutely ridiculous. Did they try to hold
Yes.
you to the 50% coding?
N- well, yeah, it is totally ridiculous because it's only that because they have to pick some number,
Yeah,
because it can swing from like 20 to 80% on both sides of that depending on the team. It's more of like you're not going to get held to 50% for the management part in my experience. You're
yeah.
definitely going to get held to the 50% coding part.
Okay, so they emphasize the coding part. I've seen it go the other way, where it's like if you're a lead and you have that sort of 50-50 quota, there's not a real expectation that you're going to be able to deliver code because you're like solving problems and taking down barriers and blah blah blah, dealing with paperwork, and it's really hard to manage. So their emphasis in that role is like deliver code, and oh by the way, when you have time, here's a set of people that I want you to be looking at their performance and helping them grow.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually there are pretty strict requirements for managers to be technical at the company,
Oh yeah,
because it starts with tech lead, down the management track. Then when you're an engineering lead, you are a manager of other tech leads plus tech lead to one team, and you're still expected to be 50-50, just kind of loosely.
yeah.
And then once you get to the SEM role, senior engineering manager, that's the first time like you're less technical and you're kind of going
Yeah.
hands off at that point. However, every manager that gets hired there is expected to be technical. So
Yeah.
no matter like which level you're hired on, SEM or higher,
Mm-hmm.
you are still required to do a 6-month embed as a developer on a team. So for the
Oh,
first
cool.
6 months at the company, you are just coding, and some managers end up not being a good fit because
They struggle with that window.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that as part of the manager sort of like role? Do you think that works well? Has challenges?
The split
Yeah.
or the embed process.
The embed
I think the embed is amazing. Like
sounds really cool.
if I was running the company, I would be like, well, it's 6 months until like we get them as a manager. I don't know, but
Oh, it's at the beginning of your role. You start out 6 months and then you move in. It's not like every so often you get it re-injected as a dev.
correct. However, I think now once a year, every manager is also expected to do another embed, which is like 6 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe 3 weeks, something like that,
Yeah.
a few weeks. I think it's really good. I was surprised at, when we hire directors and senior managers, how capable they all seem to be,
Yeah.
like going in and
Cool.
crushing code. And they're a good
Cool.
influence on the team too, to kind of balance the perfectionism, because they know
Yeah.
like, okay, we got to get shit done.
Yeah. That's really cool. So that leads me to my next question is what sort of inspires you there? What have you seen that like you're like, yeah, that's actually really cool.
I am totally drinking the Kool-Aid of HubSpot. I just they share a lot of like their whole thing is that everyone should be close to the customer and solving for the customer.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we all need to understand the customer and understand the feedback, understand the interviews, understand what they're asking for. And I would say it's probably not typical how much time we spend doing that compared to other companies as developers. You know, we're always able to jump on customer interviews. And I think what's particularly inspiring is when you see all the success stories and how happy people are
Yeah.
about some of the changes you made.
And you
Someone
get direct
posted,
feedback.
yeah, it's direct feedback.
Cool.
Someone who was on LinkedIn with a feature that I was working on recently said, if I see Jim Duffy, I'm going in for the hug, because they were so happy with
Oh, that's
with
awesome.
this thing that you wouldn't think. It was just like converting a page to a panel so they could see what was on the page while they were still working on their thing, right? And stay in context. And they just loved it so much. And that stuff makes me pretty excited.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's really common for companies to talk about that and not really actually give you any time to put emphasis on the customer or listen into customer interviews or, you know, get any direct feedback that might contradict the product manager's chain of thinking. But
Hmm.
so that sounds like they're really top to bottom interested in, you know, getting you all exposed. Is super cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we switch gears for a second. I want to talk specifically about AI, and I guess like you know, I want to get to some of the earlier questions that were more existential, but I actually would just love to hear what is what are you doing on a daily basis that is sort of like companies sanction approaches to coding that AI sort of injected into your development process. And then obviously I'm going to ask about, you know, other ways you might be using it as well.
Yeah. So it is. So HubSpot has now branded itself as an AI first company. And that is like a core value
What does that mean?
of us. That's a good question. I would have to go read our core engineering principles again, but it was put there. Maybe there was a year ago about this,
I
but
vaguely
we
remember this announcement. Like I
we
think it
were
went out on Newswire or something.
yeah, and I'm not sure like what has changed with public comm since then, but I know that because of that, we were closely tracking how many developers are using this because we were
Yeah.
trying to get adoption.
Right.
And when it gets to a certain point, you know, when you're down to like the last percent trying to get those people to adopt, they might be skeptical or they might be like not wanting to for one reason or another.
Sure.
So one thing we were tracking was how many folks are using it. Well, now we're at 100% adoption. Everyone's using it. And what
Well,
that means is using some version of Cursor or Claude Code
yeah.
and programming with it to whatever degree is like a good fit for your work.
What's your favorite build out for IEDE?
So what I use day in and day out is I have Cursor set up. I don't pay too much attention to models. I pretty much just leave it on
Auto
Claude.
on Claude, yeah.
Yeah, just by default. I think it's on Claude. And
Pro. You guys have
uh,
your own version of Claude model for
no, no,
Cursor? You just
no,
use
we
this?
don't. No,
Yeah.
so prompting becomes important.
Yeah.
So Cursor's on the Claude model, but I honestly very rarely use that.
Hmm.
I'm heavily using Claude Code
Yeah.
and using different instances of that in parallel.
Yeah.
And when it comes time to push a change up to be reviewed, I'll kind of button it up with Cursor, go through
Yeah.
every line. Maybe I'll ask Cursor at that point about like, what about this line? Because that's kind of hard to do in Claude Code.
Yeah.
It's one thing. and then push it up and put it up for review.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, when would you say, when was the last time you majorly updated that stack of tools that you're using? Because I feel like only recently they've gotten pretty good. I'm like, maybe I'm wasn't paying attention enough. I feel like Cursor was pretty good, and then the others sort of follow suit. Do you remember where Claude Code sort of became your go-to?
I am pretty bad with dates, but maybe like a
Oh,
year
roughly.
ago.
Oh wow,
Maybe
that
no,
long
well,
ago.
no, no. I was gonna back it up and say
Oh yeah,
maybe a year or a year and a half ago I was using Cursor
yeah,
regularly, and then maybe like 6 months ago I started with Claude Code,
yeah,
and I tried it and was just so surprised by how pleasant it was to code in a terminal like that. I didn't
yeah,
think it would be good. Um, and then maybe like 3 months into using Claude Code, I started to realize how powerful it was to use multiple Claude instances at the same time and stopped caring about AI costs. It
yeah.
just started like
Because
being like,
I'm
oh,
assuming HubSpot's covering all that. They're just like,
yes,
use as
yeah,
much capacity as you want.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you have it on Max.
Yeah,
It's always thinking and
maybe.
planning, and yeah, it's. I mean, I use it personally, and it it does. I do hit a limit. I hit the 5 hour limit pretty quick. I guess you guys
Hmm.
don't have that.
Nope.
That's so
If we
nice.
have a limit, I haven't found it.
All right,
Uh,
so what
yeah.
if what's the difference between your multiple tabs? Like, what are you having all the tabs do?
So this is once I discovered how powerful that was. That was when I really the gears in my brain really started to turn about this because typical development is you can only focus on one thing at a time. So you're only
Yeah,
making progress on one thing at a time.
of course.
And so there's a lot of ways to approach this, and I tried to present this internally as well, and I never came up with a great way to say it. I'm gonna see if I can better now.
Okay.
But throughout the day, there's just so many different flavors of work that might be on your plate. Like you have a few Slack messages, maybe folks asking what's a timeline for this or how does this work? And then you have assigned issues like, I got to make a button, I got to make a page. And then, maybe also a customer issue that's saying, hey, this isn't working for me. So all of those have a research stage.
Yeah.
So say I have like 6 issues that are across those things like Slack messages, work, customer issues. I could prompt Claude to go look at all of our code to go just start building an understanding of all of those things.
Yeah.
Maybe after the first prompt, it will just give me an answer for one of them. If not, it will at least have pushed the research forward.
Yeah.
And so I become more of a stokes in the fire, making sure that they're all just getting pushed
You
forward
got
and going between them.
a bunch of grilled cheese on the burner, and you're just flipping them.
Yeah.
So wait,
And then I'm like, wait, what am I doing
burgers.
here?
Maybe it's
What is my
burgers.
job now?
So yeah, actually, that's so cool. And I guess this is more in the weeds, but you have them on different branches, or are they just running on a like how do you keep all that organized?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also like, how do you keep the mental models organized as
Yeah.
well, which comes up a lot.
What
To
do you
answer your
mean by?
question,
Well, I'm gonna pause that for a second. What do you mean by mental models?
so when you have 6, 7, 8 of these different work streams going,
Yeah.
and you are like, okay, I just reprompted this one. Now I'm going to switch back to number 4 because that grilled cheese looks ready to be flipped. It's like, wait, what is number 4 again? Where
Yeah.
am I?
Right.
Where is it? If I've already done 5 prompts, like,
Right.
what do I need to do next? And that's the mental model I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Because you have, possibly 5 steps times, 8
Yeah.
streams going.
Right.
So as far as working on the same branch, I try to select work that would not be in the same branch and same project for that reason.
Right. That makes sense.
And if you want to, like for
Do,
that, yeah, go
are
ahead.
you creating the branch, or is it, as part of your ticket or whatever? Like
I still create it.
you create it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not. It doesn't pre-exist, but you're doing things on. different parts of the code base, so you're not having, risk of
conflicts.
conflicts. Yeah.
But there is one big unlock which I've been sharing with folks in the last few months, which is Claude Code and all of the coding agents have a planning mode.
Right.
And so if I am working on the same project, and hopefully it's not the same file, because when it comes time to actually make changes, that's going to be annoying.
Yeah.
But if they're all in the same project, which means they might have some overlapping changes.
Yeah.
If you use all of those coding agents in planning mode, they can all push their research forward, and they're not making any changes, so they're not conflicting with each other.
Right.
They can all push their research forward, and then even if you want to still like continue and make actual code changes in all three at the same time, you can keep it in planning mode, and it will make code changes, but kind of like in a buffer. It's like in its own memory of saying, okay, I'm going to change these 5 files, and then another one saying I'm going to change these 3, and it's starting to plan out its coding ahead of time. And when one of those looks good and it's ready to go for review, I'll make a branch for it and just push that one all the way forward through.
Yeah.
Right. And then I can go to some other stream and do this.
They're not literally trying to cook the same. They're not trying to cook in the same pan at the same time. All these different meals.
Yeah. I don't share skillets.
Yeah.
My skillet is, and that's kind of my brain too, right? Like
that
my
makes
skillet
sense.
is small enough for one of the grilled cheeses.
I love that unlock. That's so brilliant. I never really thought about that, which is basically like you can get them all the way up to the execution phase, and then they can execute, and then you can look at the result.
Exactly.
And I don't know if this happens to you, but I could imagine one of the things that you might encounter is maybe the changes are small enough that this is not a big an issue, but they go to do a refactor, or if they're making a new feature, they don't quite understand what you wanted. And I've noticed that Claude will make some random changes on the code base that you're like, wait a second, that had nothing to do with what I was talking about. Do you encounter that at that sort of final execution stage?
Yeah. And I would say building up to that execution stage, I'm incorporating checks all along the way to make sure that anything I think the most ambiguous things are nailed down and it does understand them. And there are strategies for that as well. And I've been learning about that, the last year or two as we're using these to program. But also, I just recently discovered there is like a whole field emerging about this called context engineering.
Yeah. What to you is context engineering?
I probably should read more about it than I have.
But you've heard about it.
It was all the same. It's all that it's that same concept of giving it enough context so that it's not missing information from what you're trying to ask it to do. And there are various ways in which it will fail.
Yeah.
And can fail. And so I think context engineering tries to classify those and then come up with strategies for each of those.
That makes a ton of sense. I'm just going to turn off my notifications because I'm getting notifications.
One of my favorite things to do is ask it, like I will craft a prompt for it and tell it kind of through experience what I think it will need to know, and then tell it to ask me questions about what it's missing. Because if you don't, it will say, great, let's go. I'm down to clown with this code. And
it really just comes with a scythe and just starts slicing things up. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute.
And it's a cannon and you're choosing the trajectory. So once you fire it, it's gone. And if it goes down the wrong path, I will often throw the changes away and throw the context away as well, because it poisons you can say, oh no, that wasn't right. Go back to the last step. But it's too late. Like it's going to affect future results.
It totally does.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was playing with a little chat bot that was, maybe I'll turn it on in a second because I just wanted to make something silly that we could vibe code at the end of the session for like 2 seconds. And it absolutely, if it has something in its memory, it just cannot forget it. It like keeps going back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I totally get that. Um, Last question on this sort of setup is, are you using files to sort of keep the memory of what it's doing? Like, a lot of people use like a Claude.md, like markdown file. Are you keeping like an actual text file planning out the changes and it rather than just its session memory?
I just use the session memory. I think I know there are um, strategies about like trying to keep the session memory actually written in a markdown file, so that it's more transferable and you could even edit that more easily and things like that. I I haven't gone that far with it,
Haven't needed
and
it.
we're not using. I'm not using. I think those Claude MD files will like those are you can put them in like a repository and it will give it context about what's in that repository. It's on my list to play with for sure.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Um, that's okay. So now, just like high level, is it something that's really, are you really excited about it? Are you nervous about it? All of the above?
AI.
Yeah. Well, just the way you're working.
Um, I am really excited about it. I think I have a lot of peers that are more worried about it, how it's going to change things, because there is uncertainty. But I just, what's the alternative? Like just staying the
Yeah.
same or going backwards? I would not want to go down that path. I
Yeah.
think there's also a criticism that we should be more prepared for it before we widely use AI, and put more thought into how dangerous is this, what effects will it have. Um, but nothing is like one way or the other exactly. It's a balance, and where do we decide that that balance should lie? I'm pretty happy with the breakneck speed. Maybe it's like a little bit naive, but it's also just very exciting what's
Yeah.
happening. And I also think that even if we were to try and clamp down on how fast we're going with AI and how that's evolving, this is a worldwide phenomenon. Like someone
Yeah.
else will do it.
Someone else is going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's how the field is moving so fast because it's a global effort right now. I'm not too worried about. I think like there's always going to be tech. I don't love like uncertainty with my job, but I think progress is important above all. I'm really excited about like medical advances in
Yeah.
AI, and so where the cards fall, I'm just trying. Technology changes. People need to pivot and learn new things. So I'm just trying to stay on top of it to
And
give myself the best chance there.
I get the sense that you're like pretty excited about the creative aspects of it. Like you seem like a pretty creative dude to me.
Thank you. I really am. I got so addicted to vibe coding
Yeah.
a few things because it's like whatever you're dreaming up, right? And I think maybe it's more fun for me because I have a dev background compared to someone who doesn't know how to code.
Yeah.
Because if something goes wrong and the AI gets stuck, I can go in there and like
It
I
does
can
get
maybe find
stuck all
it.
the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go find the problem. And so I'm building something that if it breaks down a little bit, I know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And so vibe coding with it's really fun. I think the artistic aspect of it is amazing, like whether it's pictures or music. It's just this unlock for ideas you have. And that's exciting for me, but it's also really exciting to think about everyone who may not be privileged enough to
Yeah.
like have the materials or the education available to them to reach all of those things and that mastery, or even the discipline and energy to reach that mastery. But now they can express those ideas and thoughts
Yeah.
by just prompting it. And so I think that's going to be a lot more creativity and just like art that manifests in the world.
I do think it's a good comparison to the evolution of communications when the printing press was invented because all of a sudden you had a democratization of being able to communicate your ideas. And this is sort of like a similar process that we're going through with coding, which is you don't really have to know every library. You don't really have to know, how to get up and running on the web. This thing can really accelerate that process and bring an idea into reality. So that's a really cool process, which, that's exactly the point I think you're trying to make, is that, you know, people can just kick off a new idea and they don't need to be an elite. You can just go, which is so cool.
It's also a gateway to learning skills as well.
Yeah.
Like in a time when
Great tutor.
social media is just so dominant and we're spending more time being entertained and looking at our phones. If you start to make a website that is like functional and useful to you, or some art or something, maybe that inspires you to learn, okay, how could I make this in real life? How could I actually like learn to debug? I made this beautiful website, but there's one problem with it. And then it can tutor you to figure out, to like give you the skills to figure out, okay, where can I fix the thing that the AI couldn't?
Definitely. Yeah. Have you ever heard of people, and maybe this is just a Reddit thread that I looked at. Have you heard of people just taking Jira tickets and having it automatically run, Claude headless to deliver the code and ship it to prod? Because Jira has an API and you can just suck it down and let it go. What do you think of that?
So I have a few thoughts. So I'm in a place where I have unlimited AI budget, right? And
It's awesome.
that gets me thinking about things, because I'm coding with this and coding and getting more comfortable with living in this world of like, okay, I can kick off any prompt and I don't care how much it costs. You know, can I, what, I'm living in this world of like infinite AI basically. So I'm like, wait, why can we make 1,000? Can I make 1,000, 10,000 of these things and just point it at all these different issues everywhere
Yeah.
in the company?
Yeah.
And it solves, 10% of them, and that's a win.
Yeah.
There are actual costs to this. So it's like, I have to reel it in for sure. But that's where I'm at. And then, what you're describing is what we're working on and prototyping and in the early phases of. So
Yeah.
like we have error tracking, and sometimes now there's a new button that's like a beta where you can say, well, this error, make an issue for it and try to solve it. And
Just the button
yeah,
does it.
the
Yeah,
button just does it.
yeah, I mean that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's showing up in different places, right? Like it's for our, like, what's it called? Sentry errors, like front end error tracking. That's a tool. You can see all the errors. So we have a version of that. Like you could do it in that. I don't think we're at the point of where we want to do that for customer issues yet, because we need to prove its viability elsewhere. But what you're talking about is happening for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be a really valuable evolution. I also think sort of the dev at the dashboard is going to be a really important piece of that puzzle, because I do watch these things go absolutely haywire, and it seems sort of baked into how they operate. I don't think they're going to eradicate that anytime soon, and you're still going to need an operator. And I think, and there's so many nuances in how we use language, how we describe problems that we're facing, that are so intuitive for humans. And frankly, large language models have done an amazing job of understanding some of that nuance, if you can call it understanding, but there's still some serious limitations. So I picture that you sitting in front of, maybe it's 10,000 headless instances, but they're all overarchingly guided by a developer. So
Yeah, and
I still see that.
it feels like it's hitting a bit of a wall. Maybe I shouldn't say a wall, but slowing down right now. and we are very, very much still at a point where it needs human guidance and human taste
Yeah.
to check what it's doing and direct it. So, as far as the
Well,
AI job question, I think we're secure for a while.
well, I think also that your unlock, uh, which is like, should I have 10,000 of these things? Like, what are the limits? Which is sort of fascinating to me when I think about, you know, older technologies like the car going on a dirt road because it was designed for carriages, and like we're
Hmm.
still on dirt roads. Things are going to operate in a very different way than they are today. We're still using AI in a non AI enlightened world, and so it's going to be fascinating. Like, how do people look at this with completely fresh eyes? And that's going to be the next generation who starts just sort of taking this stuff for granted. Um,
Yeah, that's a good point. I think of a few things there. Like I saw some of the most groundbreaking apps weren't invented until the smartphone existed for 3 years.
right.
Like I think like Uber, for example. Not that the app itself is groundbreaking, but as an application of the smartphone technology, it is right. Totally changes the travel industry. Possibly kills the taxi business. I don't know.
Yeah, you can navigate to anywhere you want to go, get a place, get a dinner that's reasonably good. You sort of rely on the fact that it's going to be good. Like the whole experience of word of mouth is completely changed. And you're right; it took years after the capability was there to actually get it to come to life. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I also often think about how we are applying, like when I'm doing coding with Claude, like how it is reading and writing code that was by humans and then it's writing for humans and we're trying to instruct it to do that.
Yeah,
Like read this shitty human code and write some more shitty human code
like we
instead
did
of
it, and
yeah,
in
just
a way that makes sense to
so that we
our
can
shitty
watch you
brains.
basically. Yeah. Because yeah, I mean there's still like a heavy process of make it human readable, but you always wondered like is that really what's going to be important in a year or two? If we
Yeah,
were writing, if there was a
yeah,
programming language that we couldn't understand but was
right.
super condensed
Yeah,
to just like like a for loop being like a letter or something really small. Think about how much bigger the context window could be when you're programming in one session like that.
I think it would be really interesting if you trained a model instead of training it on code, you trained it on compiled code.
Hmm.
That's probably not that different, but I think there's a huge compression uh, opportunity. I totally agree that we are still, talking like humans using very, very inefficient communication that's, super valuable to us. But I think machines are going to think we're Luddites. Like, you
A
can
big
just
part
see it.
of my job and like the traditional developer job is documentation.
Yeah.
And
Thank
it
God.
is notorious for being a slow process, getting out of date, having a maintenance cost,
Yeah.
being missing in being the
Yeah.
thing that you really need, even though it's missing. And so now if I have to go do documentation, and I say have to, but I actually kind of like documentation, but I still hesitate because it's like now I think there's a lot more AI reading the documentation than there is humans, at least at
Yeah.
our org,
Right.
because we have an internal kind of ChatGPT that looks at all the doc and will answer questions.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Should I write it for humans? Should I even put any effort into it? Should I just tell, you know, ChatGPT, you should write this to be optimized for an AI to read it or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think this sort of gets at a really interesting question that I've been thinking a lot about, which is, not just internal networks. Well, what do we think about the internet in terms of what is it, as a web content creator, what is the right way to deliver your message or to document your research
so that people actually find it and understand it. Because they're not going to actually probably go to your website in a number of years. They're probably just going to be interacting with their AI of choice. And so I I think that's a really good question. I'm curious if you have any like predictions.
So there's a pretty dramatic drop in clicks from Google now. I think it's like 40% of searches are not resulting in a click or something
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
because they're getting AI answers instead. Yeah, that number is only going to keep going up. I very rarely use Google. I still do sometimes, which is interesting. I'm not sure why, but I also think that the process of using ChatGPT, it's kind of a segue right now where you open a ChatGPT and then search in it as if you would Google.
Yeah.
It's like we had to take baby steps because there's also like Sam Altman has talked about he leaves his phone on his desk, like I have it right now, and he leaves it in voice mode. And anytime he has a question, he just says it out loud, and it's
Yeah.
it's just there. He doesn't have to
Yeah.
open a tab.
He
So I think
obviously
there's
doesn't have to pay for it.
yeah, exactly. um, and so I think there's going to be like really big, unpredictable user interface changes to it as
Yeah.
well, in addition to not only migrating to AI for answers. The whole SEO industry is so interesting how that's changing too. And I've heard before, people are saying like the first person who figures out how to do, or has mastery of the AEO space and can like really funnel
Yep.
products through it from what people are searching in a good way that everyone starts to use is going to be the a trillionaire or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, kind of really hard to imagine what that step's going to look like, and sort of shocking. We're not really seeing product in these chat tools. They're not, and this is sort of true for Facebook in the early days. You didn't just have like an add to cart button plastered all over the place, or ads that were targeting you for who you were and what you liked and what football team you watch. All of that information is just being pumped into these chatbots. We're like asking it super personal questions. It can make inferences that Facebook could only do through metadata, and data analysis. We're literally telling it exactly what's going on in our lives. And it's like, it does seem like there's a latent commercial opportunity here. How you do that in a way that people don't want to throw up and go to somebody who's not doing it as poorly is super interesting. I do think one obvious use case that Google Shopping has sort of captured, or maybe Google's gone way too far down this road, which is there is a really great need for just being able to like, give me the best product based on these criteria, and it serves that product up to you, and you can just buy it and have it shipped to your home, and like, or you don't even need to like, the one click purchase on Amazon is even one more step than you need. It'll do the searching and send it to your house. So I'm curious, like, how long it's going to take us to get to that point where we really have a streamlined process, and AI has sort of captured that away from traditional searching.
Yeah, I am so excited to be able to say, buy me a car.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Yeah.
my family, what I
Yeah,
need,
exactly.
my personality, just go do it for me. It'll get to the point first of like, here are the top 3 cars, and then I'll take over from there. And then
Right.
once I start trusting its recommendation, years from now, like unquestioningly, I'll just say, you buy it. And then it will do all that, no shopping. I get, years back of my life.
Or
And
I
that's
don't even want to tell it I want a car. I just want a car to show up when it's the right time.
yeah. Oh,
Just
that's
want to
probably
like
more realistic, actually.
twitch. I just want to like twitch in the right way. When I get into my car, they're like, "Oh yeah, he doesn't like this car anymore. I'm going to send him a new one." No, I don't. I don't actually want that. But yeah. Okay. So I have we're almost out of time, and I thought I would just ask some more of those like uh, scarier questions. What's your P doom?
Um, is that like probability of doom?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you heard that term being kicked around?
No, I haven't.
It's just like a dumb term that people ask on podcasts, and I thought it would be funny to ask you.
So higher is more
Basically,
likely of doom.
yeah, and for reference, I think Elon Musk was like 10% that AI, human invented AI, is going to wipe out all of humanity.
Okay, so doom is like
The percentage that we create super intelligence that
uh,
then is also our doom.
I'm like 0.3 on that, which still sounds too high.
Oh yeah, so you're very low.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very low on that. I think
That's
that
pretty cool.
I think I think that it looks like it's alive, but I've been explaining to folks that, it's like it's just like giving you the probability of the next word, right? Which maybe is oversimplifying it, but I guess that is intelligence to a degree, but it's
Yeah,
not alive. It's not sentient. It is still a machine.
it's like, is a card catalog going to kill you? It's kind of where you're at.
I don't know.
It's like a very fancy card catalog.
We are giving it like it can make decisions, it can be autonomous, and it can have motivation, like depending on what you system prompt it with. So you could see with the current tech, if it had access to like nuclear codes or something,
Yeah.
maybe it could, with enough agents and capability and like some new invention of AI, superintelligence, it could do something nefarious, but 0.3%. That's where I'm at.
Um,
What's
yeah,
your
I
PD?
realized that mine was like 90. I actually did a calculator. I did it online. It's sort of like, it's probably like a BuzzFeed book. Which house are you in Harry Potter? And I'm at 91%, which
Oh my God.
I feel like I'm fairly optimistic about how fun it's going to be to work with AI, but then I like start to think about it and I put in my little estimates on each of the line and it was like, yeah, you're a total doomer. So, um,
Well, there's an important question of what's the time frame we're talking about? Because if we're talking about 500 years, then it's probably one of the.
okay, yeah, that was another thing. I was thinking eventually it's going to do it, not like 10 years from now, you know. Do you want to try the PDOOM calculator? I can tell you, I'll give you the things and you just give me a percentage for each
Yeah,
one of them.
sure.
It's not long. All right. Probability of that will invent super intelligence.
Oh, you cut out for a second. What was it?
What's the probability that we're going to invent super intelligence?
What is superintelligence?
I think it
No,
means
I'm out on this quiz. It's not going to work.
okay.
They don't have any details other than that.
No, I'll tell you what it is. Super intelligence
Oh,
means more intelligent than, any human being.
oh, well, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Well, maybe I said 90%. Probability of alignment failure. That basically means that AI will eventually be completely misaligned with what humans wanted to be doing.
I think that could only happen by accident, right? So I want to say like 2%.
2%. Probability of malicious use. And I'm assuming they mean on massive scales. I don't know.
Um,
I didn't check this calculator. This could be total crap. But I want to know. I did mine. It was 91. So let's see where you are.
yeah, that's tough because it already has been maliciously used. But
Yeah.
if we're talking about
Let's say a
Like
massive scale.
widespread.
Yeah, widespread.
Yeah, let's say like, I mean, how many people are even malicious to begin with? Maybe if it was so capable, it'd be tempting, right? Um, such a,
These are maybe not the best worded questions, but
I would say,
I want your answer.
yeah, I gotta say, I'm just from the gut. I'll say 5%.
Yeah. Probability of critical errors, systemic errors.
100%.
Yeah, that's what I put too. Probability of governance failure, and that basically means that there's a
100%.
failure. Yeah, that's what I said too. Oh my gosh, you were so spot on. This must be a really, well, your PDOM estimate is 2.1%.
Really?
Yeah, but I think it looks like it's just the major problem in the whole situation we got here is the alignment failure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not. Yeah, I'm definitely a doomer. You're not a doomer. That's cool.
Well, yeah, you
Okay.
called this the AI Blazing Trails podcast.
Exactly. All right. So, what does intelligence mean to you?
See, when you asked that from as part of the quiz as well, I was
This is a
reflecting on that
this is a totally
because
yeah. You could even drop that out of your mind. But well, yeah. What does it mean to you? Well,
because like, is there like a physical intelligence also? You know, like knowing how things sense, like touch, feel, and see, and things like
yeah.
that.
I mean, I really liked what you were saying earlier about how you got connected with and understood coding through the embodied experience of working in a robotics lab. And I do think there's a huge divide on whether or not intelligence needs to be embodied or not embodied. And I don't think there's a clear definition of what intelligence mean, but
I want
I
it
was
to fold in the laundry
curious.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, so I guess like I'll just what if you had to define it, someone's putting your feet to the fire, how would you define intelligence?
um, this is a deeply philosophical question.
It is.
I guess I keep thinking of Interstellar, and
Yeah.
um,
Why Interstellar?
because there's that silly scene in it where he's like it only takes like 42 different attributes to make, you know, a unique someone. Am I even saying that right? Do you know what I'm talking about at
No, I
all?
don't know this
No.
quote.
Okay.
I'm going to look this up after we're done.
Okay. Um, yeah. So I don't think it has to do with. Maybe it does have to do with memory. Like I'm trying to separate like intelligence and memory, and does intelligence encapsulate actually both of those? Does memory have a factor in that? I don't think so. Like I kind of think of intelligence along the lines of like IQ, like what's the horsepower you're actually working with? How are your neurons firing?
Yeah.
Electricity flowing.
I
So I
love
think
the
along those lines.
I love the idea though of questioning whether memory is included in that. And I think that is really interesting in terms of how large language models were built, which is basically we put our entire collective memory on top of this horsepower. Just uh, huge number of very powerful neuron chips, and asked it a bunch of questions, and just kept rejiggering it randomly until it gave us intelligible answers. So I guess for your definition, the intelligence would be the structure, the infrastructure. Does that sound right? Versus the
Yeah, I think
memory.
it would take 3 days of thinking about it, but I think that like
No, I'm just sort
I
of
think you're
fascinated,
right.
like how this stuff strikes you, and I guess like so that's really interesting, and I'm curious, like thinking about that, how would super intelligence be defined then to you? Do you think it even exists or has a meaning?
I've always thought that kind of the common understanding of superintelligence would just mean like much smarter than us.
Yeah.
And then you supply that with all of the memory, supplement that with, you know, the memory of all the things, of all the Reddit questions and answers and Wikipedias. And then you have something that is, I guess we already have like a PhD in our pocket, is what we can call ChatGPT right now.
Yeah.
But when it's like a super intelligent PhD in our pocket, that becomes something very different.
Definitely. And we said at the beginning that you have a daughter, and I am about to have a daughter. And so I'm super curious, like, how you think about this technology blending with raising your kid and how it fits into your family life or doesn't fit.
I'm glad you asked. I think that a few years ago I was kind of a lot more scared about her growing up with social media and the effect that that can have on folks' mental. And I think that AI is like a welcome disruption. Like, I don't know that it's not going to like make it go away, but it's definitely a disruption in the tech world. And so I think it's going to lead to like new ways to consume, hopefully smarter ways to consume. But the first thing that comes to mind with her is how she can use it to learn
Yeah.
and play with. And I think that's really cool. She already does it with ChatGPT because I would turn on voice mode and then she can ask it
Oh, that's so
anything.
cool.
And if it's unintelligible because she was still learning to talk,
Do you give it some
like, I didn't quite
context?
catch that. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
like it will still talk with her even either way.
Endlessly answering 2-year-olds questions. That's awesome.
And she'll say, I don't know why she has this format. It'll be like, what does something do? She'll say, what does strawberries do? What does cows do? And she got it in her head like that's the only thing she can ask.
Well, what
For a
does
while.
strawberries do? I don't know the answer.
We need super intelligence to answer that question. But it will tell her about strawberries, you know, and that's cool. And you know, what's it going to be like in 10 years when she's like in middle school and trying to learn things that, you know, were hard for me to learn at that age.
Hopefully, still not asking what does strawberries do.
Hopefully.
That's so cool.
I think that's exciting. Yeah.
I love that idea. It's sort of like an endless tutor. Rather than, I think everybody's like worried that, suddenly you're not going to be able to learn any topics because you're going to be able to cheat on everything. I feel like that sort of emphasizes, and it's a thing that I really like about you, which is emphasizing curiosity. And I do think there's this endless sort of what's over the next hill that's sort of baked into humanity as a whole, which makes me hopeful and excited that we're actually going to learn a lot from this exercise. And I think learn things like, what does intelligence mean? How do we learn? How do we actually value ourselves, etc.? With that, I think we can wrap this up. Thank you so much
What a
for
pleasure.
taking an hour and a half. And as always, really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, you too.